Hey guys, welcome to this week's podcast episode. And I've got a fantastic guest for you coming from the continent of Europe, Vincent. And he's got a lot of interesting ideas around psychology, mindset, personal development in a company or an organization. He kind of took a entrepreneurial route as opposed to talking about the traditional. He's talking more about the meat of the subject, and I'm really happy he's the author of Work Like a Warrior, which we'll talk about. And I'm really happy to welcome Vincent to the show. Welcome, Vincent.
Well, thank you so much. It's really a pleasure to be here. Thanks for inviting me, Christopher. I really look forward to this conversation.
Yeah, I know we had a really nice pre talk conversation, and one thing that's really interesting is that you talked about your book at Mind Valley University, which is I'm going to ask you about, but talk about briefly your journey and your story, how you got there, and how the audience can benefit from your expertise.
Yes, absolutely. So I'm an independent management consultant. I work on a freelance basis with small to mid-sized companies, and at all levels of the organization. Usually it's around scaling the business. A lot of companies get to a certain stage where they experience what they call a crisis of growth, and then I help them put the different pieces together. I also written this book and live here in Berlin. I have two kids, like to travel and all the nice things. But to start things off, it wasn't always like this. I was working in my previous career, also in consulting for a big company for 15 years. And back in 2016, I'd reached a point where from the outside, you could think, oh, this is really successful, going well. I'd been promoted to senior manager. So I was on basically progressing in the career. I was married with two kids. We just bought a house here in Berlin. And from the outside, it looked like, things are going well. But really under the surface, things were not going well at all. I was very anxious. I was very stressed. My marriage was failing. And there were lots of things on my mind and I couldn't really see how to get my way out of that. It very much also relates to some of these financial aspects that I'm happy to go into. So I wasn't in debt or anything, but it was a situation where I really got close to very much like a burnout type situation. The culmination was really that my father had a health issue, like heart palpitations. He was traveling with my mom, and that just basically brought me over the line. And one evening I was talking to my wife, and she asked me, amongst all this craziness, she said, "So, how are you feeling actually? How are you doing?" And then that question just really hit me hard, and I really broke down and started crying. And that was the moment where I realized I had to change something, and I had to change something over time. Since then, 2016, I've really changed a lot of things about my life and how I approach things, about disciplines and habits. And it's been quite the journey, but it's been really, really good. And it culminated somehow in writing this book, which I started writing about 3 years ago. A lot of practical advice on how I think people can become more successful, happier at work, and by extension also these organizations that they work for, that they have a better corporate culture, are more efficient, and that leads to actually more, let's say, economic value also to society as a whole. So that's kind of my journey.
Yeah, it's really interesting journey, and like I love your passion, and I know you're from just talking to you, I can get a good read that you have a very strong work ethic. One thing that may come to mind for the audience is what's kind of I was the same way back in 2008, and then basically I had the same epiphany, and so. What does it mean to work like a warrior? Because you talked about your journey and your success and your just high work ethic, and then you write a book about working like a warrior. How do you reconcile those two?
Right. Yes. So I first started writing down all these little things, little and big things that I started noticing over time in different companies and organizational settings that really annoyed me. Where I thought people were being treated badly, or they weren't really understanding that they were also maybe sometimes not doing themselves any favors in how they were approaching certain situations. So I wrote down a lot of things over a long period of time, and then I tried to figure out, okay, what is actually the thread here? How does it all relate? And only mid of last year, so that was 6 months before I actually published a book, it became clear to me that what was really connecting all these different things and these elements that I was describing is this connection between three really important elements. And you can picture almost like a triangle where of three different terms. And at the very top comes the word purpose. And I know that you also talk about purpose on your podcast and with your guests. And this is, of course, essential to start with. And then but it's only, I think, aiming for a purpose and deciding on it and then really working towards it. It requires that you take responsibility, of course, for that purpose. So that's the second element. And then there's a third element, which I think is underestimated, or we've kind of sometimes lost this kind of understanding of it in society, which is sacrifice. And sacrifice is really important to understand that, of course, we hardly even notice it because there's so many different little trade-offs that we have every day. So we make these little sacrifices and big ones as well. And I'm happy to go into that. And the connection to the warrior is the following. So when you really take this to the absolute substance of the meaning, the purpose, taking responsibility for it, and making the right sacrifices to be able to do this, to follow that purpose. This occurred to me last year that let's call it the archetype that describes it in the most poignant way is the archetype of the warrior, because the warrior is ready or is willing to give up their life for that higher purpose at the most extreme. And I'm not saying, of course, that business or other types of professions relate to that extent, to let's say to that concept. But when we take the essence of that understanding, it can help us really understand what are we doing, what is it that we're working on, what is the situation that we're in that company, what are we trying to achieve, and it's a way of overcoming the ego and really focusing only on the things. And when you achieve that, I'm convinced that you can save a lot of money and a lot of time and a lot of pain if you speak the truth, and you sit together and you work towards that purpose. That's how it connects.
Yeah, very really powerful of the other question is what inspired you to write the book and kind of talk about the main premises of it and how you use that, because you're also a public speaker and you launched with your book at Mind Valley University, which is I'm blanking on the name, something Lakhani, I think, but he's with Mind Valley. But talk about that experience and motivation.
With pleasure, yes. So what started out with because as a consultant, you were always kind of by default you're kind of detached from the situation that you're helping your client with, and I've always enjoyed that, and I think maybe there's something about this role that really speaks to me in a sense, so when you spend enough time and I've seen so many companies, huge corporations and lots of met so many different individuals. So you develop this kind of this sense for big and small things where people might not be let's say have the courage to speak up about something that's not going right, or even something that they might not understand. And there's also on the other side people who are afraid to ask if everyone is on the same page, if people have really understood what it's about, who can detach themselves from time pressure that they might be under, and it doesn't really matter where it comes from. Sometimes people create their own time pressure, and it's not really necessary. And I'm experiencing that actually currently with in a situation as well where you really have to have these very, very basic conversations with people. What is it that drives you? What do you know and feel that you're here to do? And then how can we work around that? So from these all these little elements that have really helped me, and also in combination with this journey that I went through, where I felt like, okay, I never want to feel like this again. Yeah, where I'm just overwhelmed and anxious and stressed, and then I developed these and I wrote it in these. I've actually 5 chapters in the book. They're called groundedness is the first one. The second one is satisfaction, happiness, success, and role model. These are the 5 dimensions that I explore in the book. And they are not necessarily a sequence, but deliberately I chose groundedness as the first element to really explore how we can get grounded and how we can, from that space where we can feel calm and safe and at ease. We can really understand, okay, what is it that we actually want to do and focus on? What is it that's necessary? Yeah, so it's from that perspective. And my intention is really to help people develop that kind of a healthy distance between the situation that they're in, but also to help them observe their own behaviors or their own actions and also their own inaction. And that's what I cover in more detail in the book.
Yeah. Moving on, this because talk about because a lot of people they write their book and then basically the book, or it could be anything, could be a YouTube channel, it could be a podcast, and then they become public speakers, influencers. So talk about the transition from author to public speaker and why you chose Mind Valley University.
Yeah, definitely. So I have a friend of mine who came and visited me last year, and I was in the middle of writing this book. And it's so interesting how sometimes these situations come together. So he had just been to that place, and Mind Valley it's actually more or less, for the most part, it's an online platform, and it's focused on personal growth. And it covers lots of different dimensions, everything from health to topics, to relationship topics, to business topics, all kinds of things. I've never been directly involved, but he stopped by Berlin on his way back from Tallinn. This is because it was in Estonia, and he told me about it. And as I was in the middle of writing the book, and I remember distinctly this almost exactly a year ago that I felt like, okay, I think I really have something here with the book. It was kind of taking shape, and something really incredible happened, or something that I really understood, and it was almost like what I had written and what I had put in the book was kind of like speaking back to me, in the sense that he inspired me, that I thought, okay, this could be a place where I can share these opinions or these rationale and this advice to people. That would give me a platform to share this. And that was the one inspiration. And then secondly, I felt like, okay, what do I actually need to do to finish this book? Because writing isn't easy, and fitting it into your other responsibilities it can be really a challenge. So and for sure it was for me as well. And then I went back to this one element that I cover in the book, which is it's actually a subchapter called "Make the Right Sacrifices." And I thought, okay, really consciously thought, okay, what are the sacrifices that I have to make if I want to finish this book by Christmas, by the end of the year? And I'm a very outgoing person. I really love being with people and going out and having fun and all those nice things. And then I thought, well, maybe or probably I knew I have to question myself and say, okay, maybe I have to sacrifice that. Maybe not exclusively, but really sacrifice it and focus on writing the book. So, and that's exactly what I did. Instead of going out for dinner on a Friday evening, I would go to bed early in the evening. Next day, get up early, meditate, go to the gym, so to really get grounded, and then go to the university, which is right around the corner from where I live here in Berlin, because there is no distraction. I could write. So this is really an element to actually be able to finish the book. And focus on that purpose. Yeah, so that goes back to that concept. And then what you asked about this transition to this speaker topic, I've always really been interested in public speaking, but I've never really had a reason to do it. At work, of course, as a consultant, you make presentations, and that can be also quite exciting. But with this topic, of course, with this book, it's something that's really close to my heart. And this was quite the experience, because I had applied to Mind Valley. And this is really the great thing about this, what they call Mind Valley University, which is it's actually a 3-week a program in Tallinn, but you can only go for 1 week. That's fine as well. So I chose to go for the first week, and then they invite people to basically co-create this experience. They invite really impressive speakers and professionals, but they also they really want to experience and encourage people to take that next step and to really try and approach that shift. So they invite you to do a workshop or to do a speaker slot. And even if you don't, if you don't get one of the official ones, you can create what they call tribal events, where everyone is in the same space. It's up to 600 people, and you can just invite people to say, "Hey, well, I'm going to be at this cafe. I'm going to read something from my book, and I want to have a discussion if you like." So people are really open to sharing. They really want to see if there's synergies around this. And long story short, my initial application to speak was actually rejected, and I was feeling a bit I was disappointed at first, actually, of course. And then I thought, okay, well, no FOMO, take it as it comes, and it's going to be great anyway. And maybe I'll just, because my friend told me I can create one of those tribal events, or maybe several. And then on the Tuesday afternoon, I was sitting in a session about qigong, which I've never taken part of before, which is quite fascinating. And I got a message from the organizational team saying that a slot had opened up the next morning, and whether I would like to have a 20 minutes speaker slot. And of course, I said yes. But at the same time, I was getting so nervous. It was crazy. It was really, I was so excited. I mean, I knew that I really wanted to, and I was going to do it, but I didn't have much time to prepare. And also there was I had a birthday dinner that I had to go to in the evening as well. And funnily enough, and this kind of brings it all together, at the end of the day, it's exactly how it made sense to actually speak about the book, because when you don't have much time to prepare for these kind of things, I mean, I was basically forced to use some mental shortcuts to develop a right outline and remember the key parts that I want to talk about, so that I could actually speak freely in front of this audience. I knew exactly how to start it. I knew exactly how I would end it. And the middle part, I developed basically an idea. These are the key elements that I want to do, and these are the stories that I want to tell. And I just went for it, and it was it was an incredible experience. And it really freed me to explore this more. And I think this is actually also what led me here today, because I'm now feel like with this kind of experience, I feel much more comfortable talking about this and sharing these pieces of advice and this story.
Yeah, what a fantastic story. And there's so many questions I have. How can people contact you and follow you and reach out to you and check out your book and so on?
Yes, absolutely. So my book is available on print on demand or as an ebook on Amazon. So if you type in "Work Like a Warrior," it should come right up. I'm also on Instagram. The handle is I am Vincent Gressieker. And I think we can probably put the details also here in some kind of notes or anything. I'm also on LinkedIn. I'm very active because I like to, of course, I will continue to work also in this as a freelance consultant. It's really almost like these two things kind of feed off of each other. So I'm very much involved in business and in organizations. So also there, I'm available, and I'm happy to, if people want to reach out to me, to connect there and contact me. Also, if they have any other questions around the elements that I've mentioned, I'm happy to answer any questions, or also connect to other people if that makes sense. Maybe a comment also regarding this whole idea of groundedness. This is actually what I also said at Mind Valley when I started the talk, that groundedness, there's an element of financial security in there as well, which I have some pieces in the book with some concrete examples as well. But there's also other elements I think that people can explore where I'm not an expert. Let's say meditation, qigong, sports, yoga, other types of grounding exercises or frameworks. So I'm really not an expert, but I can just encourage everyone to look on YouTube. There's so much great stuff out there by so many great people. And maybe as a final comment, I think what's really helped me also is to develop going more into the Stoic kind of ideas, because that really helps you also to get grounded. So I think I went off track a little bit with this comment, but yes, I'm on LinkedIn. I'm on Facebook as well. I'm on Instagram. The book is available on Amazon, and it ships everywhere. So yeah.
Yeah, excellent. And yeah, for all the audience, let's thank Vincent for coming on, and be sure to give his socials a like and follow. And thanks so much for coming on.
Thanks for having me. It's been really a pleasure. And yeah, all the best to you. And yeah, talk